Hi, once again welcome back to Obstetrics and Gynecology videos. Today we are going to see about multiple pregnancy. When one or more fetus is growing inside the uterus simultaneously, we are calling it as multiple pregnancy. Simultaneously, if two fetuses are going, we are calling it as twin pregnancy. And at a time, if three babies are growing inside the uterus, so three fetuses are growing inside the uterus, we are calling it as triplet pregnancy. And if four fetuses are going, it is known as quadruplets. And if five fetuses are there, it is known as quintuplets. And if six babies are growing inside the uterus simultaneously, we are calling it as sextuplets. And these twin pregnancies are mainly of two varieties, dizygotic twins and monozygotic twins. Dizygotic twins are the commonest, or it is the two-third of multiple pregnancy, and it is getting resulted from the fertilization of two different ova. And monozygotic twins, actually about one-third of pregnancies are monozygotic twins, and it results from the fertilization of single ova. And now we can see how these twins are getting formed. The monozygotic twins, otherwise we are calling as identical twins or uniovular twins, and dizygotic twins are known as fraternal twins or binovular twins. Already we have seen that the monozygotic twins are developing from the single fertilized ovum. So this single fertilized ovum or single zygote has to develop into two babies or into multiple babies. So if this division is occurring within 72 hours, by this time the separate placenta, placental formation may not get completed. Chorion and amnion formation also may not be completed. So these two babies will develop separate chorion, separate placenta and separate amnion, and these twins are known as dichorionic, diamniotic twins. And if the division is occurring between 4th to 8th day after the formation of inner cell mass, by this time already the chorion will get formed. So these babies will be having only one single chorion, and but both babies will be having separate amnion. So these babies are known as dichorionic monoamniotic twins. And if the division is occurring after 8th day, by this time complete placenta, amnion and chorion will develop, and these twins will be having separate amnion, separate chorion, and these twins are known as monozygotic monoamniotic twins. See here you can see if the division is occurring between 0 to 4 days, both babies will be having separate amnion and separate chorion. So two chorions will be there and two amnions also will be there, one for each baby. So this is known as dichorionic diamniotic twins. And if the division is occurring between 4 to 8 day, already the chorion will get formed. So only one single chorion will be there and two amnion will be there for each baby. So these twins are known as monochorionic diamniotic twins. And if the division is occurring after 8th day, that is between 8 to 12 days, by this time the amnion and chorion will get formed already. So each baby will be having only one. So the only one chorion and one amnion will be there, and these babies are known as monochorionic monoamniotic twins. See, you can see diamniotic dichorionic twins over here. Two separate amnion, two separate chorion are also there, and its frequency is 35%, and the mortality rate is 13% in these babies. And here you can see diamniotic dichorionic with fused placenta, and this frequency you can see in 27% of multiple pregnancy, and the mortality rate is 11% in this case. And here you can see diamniotic, that is two amnions are there, and monochorionic, only single chorion is there and single placenta is there, and this frequency is 36% of the total multiple pregnancy, and the mortality rate is 32% in this case. And here you can see monoamniotic monochorionic placenta, and it's occurring only in 2% of the multiple pregnancy, but the mortality rate is very high when comparing with the other form of pregnancy. It is around 44%. Now we can see the other classifications of the multiple pregnancy, that is in some occasions the division will occur after 2 weeks of the development of the embryonic disc, and that may result in the formation of conjoined twins or Siamese twins. And depending on the part where the babies are conjoined or where the babies are attached, we can divide this into 4 main types, that is thoracopagus, pyopagus, craniopagus and ischiopagus. Thoracopagus means the chest portion of the two babies will be attached together, and this is the common variety. And pyopagus means the posterior portion of the babies will get fused together, that is back of the baby will be fused together. And in the craniopagus, only cephalic fusion will be there, other portion will be separate, only head of the two babies will be fused together. And ischiopagus means the caudal portion, that is lower extremity or the lower limb portion will be fused together, that is known as the ischiopagus. So these are the different types of Siamese twins: thoracopagus, pyopagus, craniopagus and ischiopagus. Now we can see the examination of placenta and membranes. If you are examining the placenta and membranes in the case of dizygotic twins and in the case of monozygotic twins, how it will be, that we are going to see over here. In the case of dizygotic twins, two placenta will be there, and sometimes it may be completely separated or sometimes it may be fused at the margin. And the anastomosis between the two fetal vessels also may be seen. And in the case of monozygotic twins, the placenta is single and the varying degree of anastomosis will be with, or connections will be there between the fetal vessels. And in case of dizygotic twins, each fetus is surrounded by a amnion and a chorion. But in monozygotic twins, each fetus is surrounded by a separate amniotic sac and the chorionic layer may be common to both. It depends on the time of division that already we have seen. If the division is occurring after 8th day, sometimes single chorion and single amnion only will be there. And in the case of dizygotic twins, the intervening membranes, that is membranes between two babies, will be 4 layers. That is, each baby will be having amnion, so 2 layers of amnion will come, and each baby will be having chorion, so 2 layers of chorion also will come. So totally 4 layers will be there between two babies. But in the case of monozygotic twins, it depends on the time of division of the baby. And if it is a dizygotic, that is dichorionic diamniotic twin, both babies will be having 4 layers in between. And if it is a dichorionic monoamniotic, only amnion 2 layers will be there. If it is a monochorionic monoamniotic twins, separate membranes won't be there in between the two babies. And here you can see the anastomosis or connections between the placenta. This can occur even in the case of dizygotic twins and in the case of monozygotic twins also. And if you're looking into the sex of the baby, the twins of the dizygotic or binovular twins will be, they may have opposite sex or sometimes they may have the same sex also. But in the case of uniovular twins, always they will be having same sex. That is, in the case of monozygotic twins, always 100% they will be having the same sex. But in the case of binovular twins, it may be same sex or maybe different sex also. And if the fetuses are of the same sex and have the same genetic features, that is, if they are having the same blood group, same features, we can suspect the monozygosity of the twins. And for confirming the monozygosity, you can take the skin graft of the baby and you can send it for the assessment, and from that you can assess the DNA pattern, and if it is same, we can identify that these two twins are monozygotic twins. Or DNA microprobe technique also we can use for confirming the monozygosity. And follow-up study between 2 to 4 years, that is, if the babies are showing similar physical characteristics, behavior patterns, everything, even after 2 to 4 years, that also suggests the monozygosity of the twins. And next we can see the factors which are influencing the twin pregnancy. The exact cause of twin pregnancy is unknown, but race is a contributing factor, and its highest incidence is there in the Negroes. That is, they are having the chance for getting one twin pregnancy or multiple pregnancy in 20 births, and its incidence is lowest in the case of Mongolians. And the hereditary is also a factor. If the mother is having the family history, there is a chance for recurrence, or there is a chance for getting in the subsequent generation also. And maternal age and parity is the another factor which is contributing to the multiple pregnancy. That is, the chance for getting twin pregnancy increases after the after 37 years. And increasing the parity, that is if the mother is having more than 5 babies, or that is if the gravida of the mother, gravida means we know that it is number of pregnancy, and if the gravida of the mother is more than 5, the chance for multiple pregnancy also will increase. And another factor is nutrition factor. Taller and heavier women, in those cases the chance for twin pregnancy is 25 to 30% more when comparing to the normal woman. So the taller and heavier women are having more chance. And pituitary gonadotropin protection and treatment for the infertility and assisted reproductive technology, all these things are the subsequent causes. So in the case of infertility treatment and in the case of assisted reproductive technology, when you are giving medicines for stimulating the ovulation, there is a chance for ovulation from both ovaries. So there is a chance for 2 ovums at a time. So these 2 ovums may get fertilized and the chance for multiple pregnancy is there. And next we can see some of the terminologies or some of the common conditions that can develop in the case of multiple pregnancy, or that you can see in the case of multiple pregnancy. That first one is superfecundation. That is if the fertilization of 2 different ova released in the same cycle by separate act of coitus within a short period of time. That is 2 ovas are getting released in the same cycle and these 2 ovums are getting fertilized by separate intercourse, and these 2 things should happen within a short period of time. So that is known as superfecundation. And superfetation means the fertilization of 2 ova released in different menstrual cycle. That is, after one menstruation, fertilization of the first ova will occur, and in the subsequent menstruation, one more ovum may come out, and that also may get fertilized. Naturally, this will not occur, but there is a chance. And if such fertilization is occurring, that is known as superfetation. And next condition is fetus papraceous or compressors. That is, in the case of multiple pregnancy, one baby will die and the dead fetus will get flattened and it will get mummified between the membranes of the living fetus and the uterine wall, and that baby is known as fetus papraceous or fetus compressed. And next one is fetus ecardius. This you can see in the case of Siamese or in the case of monozygotic twins. One baby may not be having the heart and it may be living like a parasite without heart. It will be living with the support of the other baby. And another one, hydatidiform mole, that is smaller pregnancy. Already we are having another video about the hydatidiform mole. If you want to have the details, you can look into that video. And next is vanishing twin. That is, death of one fetus will occur and the death of the fetus will vanish or will disappear by resorption. That is known as vanishing twin. That is, initially if you are performing this scanning, you may see the evidences of 2 babies, but later you won't see the evidence of 2 babies or multiple baby. Only one baby will be growing. That is known as vanishing twin. So death of one baby will occur and that one died baby or dead fetus will get resorbed. Now we can see the diagnosis of twin pregnancy. You can go for the history and clinical examination. In the history, you can take the history of administration of clomiphene citrate or gonadotropins, or you can go for the history of artificial reproductive technology. This clomiphene citrate or gonadotropins, it will stimulate the ovulation, and commonly we are using in the case of infertility treatment and in the case of assisted reproductive technology also. In these cases, chance for multiple pregnancy is more, so you should take that history. And clinical examination of the pregnant lady. When you are doing the normal abdominal examination, you can see the size of the uterus, and in this case, due to the multiple pregnancy, the size of the uterus will be more and even the fundal height also will be more. And now we can see for the symptoms, the minor symptoms of normal pregnancy will be exaggerated. The woman will be having excessive nausea, vomiting, and very soon she will get the cardiorespiratory embarrassment, and the tendency, that is the swelling over the legs, varicosities, hemorrhoids, all those things will be more when comparing with the single pregnancy. And the uterine enlargement also will be more when comparing with the gestational age, and she will feel multiple fetal movements, or the excessive fetal movements also will be there for the mother. And if you're performing the general examination, chance for anemia is more because 2 babies are growing inside the uterus. So these 2 babies need the vitamins, minerals, hemoglobin, everything. So the chance for getting anemia for the mother is more, and that sometimes the lady will get unusual weight gain, and excessive weight gain will be there, and if it is not because of preeclampsia and obesity, you can suspect the multiple pregnancy. And in the case of multiple pregnancy, the chance for preeclampsia or hypertension is more in the case of multiple pregnancy. And if you're going for the abdominal examination, in the inspection, you can see barrel-shaped abdomen and unexpected enlargement or undue enlargement of the uterus also will be there. Abdomen also will be there. And in the palpation, when you're checking the height of the uterus, it will be more than the period of amenorrhea, or it will be more when comparing with gestational age. And if you're taking the abdominal girth, it will be more than 100 centimeter. And if you're palpating the fetal parts, you can see the fetal. Sometimes you will be able to feel two head, two buttocks, like that. And palpation of too many fetal parts also will be there. And all the two fetal poles also will be able to identify. And if you are going for the auscultation, you will get two different FHs at two different points, and the heart rates will be having a difference of 10 beats per minute. And the investigations you can perform for confirming the multiple pregnancy include sonography. In this case, in the initial stage itself, you can see two separate gestational sacs that will help for you to identify the multiple pregnancy. And the confirmation you can do by 10th week of pregnancy. And if vanishing twin or variability of the twin is there, that will be evident only by second trimester only. And another one is chorionicity or twin peak sign. That is, if you are taking the ultrasonography of the multiple pregnancy, you can see the chorion, and it will be like it will be in a triangular shape between the two babies. That is known as the twin peak sign. And pregnancy dating you can see, and fetal anomalies also you can confirm in the sonography, and fetal growth you can identify in the ultrasonography. You can identify the presentation and lie of the fetus, and if twin transfusion is the twin to twin transfusion, or if amniotic fluid volume is high, all those things you can identify in the ultrasonography. So already I have told you about the twin peak sign. Here you can see a triangular shape structure which is separate, which is there in between these two babies, and this is the chorion actually, and this sign is the twin peak sign. In the ultrasonography, if you are able to see this thing, it suggests the multiple pregnancy, and this will be evident even in the initial stage also. And the other investigation that you can do is biochemical tests that you can assess the level of HCG in the urine and even in the case of blood also, and it will be more when compared with the single term pregnancy. And if you are going for the maternal serum alpha fetoprotein level, that also will be more in the case of multiple pregnancy. And unconjugated estrol level, if you are assessing, that also will be double when compared with the normal single pregnancy. And the last one is radiological examination. If you are taking the radiological examination from 16th week onwards, you can see the fetal skeletal shadow in the X-ray. And if multiple babies are there, means you can see the multiple skeletal shadows. Already we have seen that in the case of multiple pregnancy, the size of the uterus will be more when comparing with the gestational age. So this same more size or the unexpected enlargement of the uterus you can see in the case of multiple pregnancy, and you can see it in the case of distended bladder. And if the menstrual history is inaccurate, you may mistake it as abnormal size of the uterus. And in the case of polyhydramnias, in the case of hydatidiform moles, in the case of uterine leiomyomas, and in the case of attached adnexal masses, and if fetal macrosomia is there, that is if large baby is there, in all these cases you can see the large abdomen, and sometimes you may suspect a multiple pregnancy in these cases. Next, we can see the complications of multiple pregnancy. The maternal complications during pregnancy include the lady will be having excessive nausea and vomiting, chance for anemia is there, chance for getting preeclampsia, polyhydramnias, chance for antepartum hemorrhage, malpresentations, fetal preterm labor, and mechanical distress for the mother. These are the complications that you can see during the pregnancy. And during the labor, chance for early rupture of the membrane is there, and chance for cord collapse is there, and chance for prolonged labor. Of course, two babies are supposed to deliver, so the time duration of the labor also will be more, and increased chance for operative inferences is there, that is more chance for cesarean and other operative delivery, chance for bleeding is there, chance for postpartum hemorrhage is also there. The chance for postpartum hemorrhage is due to the excessive stretching of the uterus. So the elasticity or the capacity of the muscles of the uterus will decrease, and it may prevent the uterus, or it may reduce the involution of the uterus, and that's a chance for postpartum hemorrhage. Next, during the puerperium, there is a chance for subinvolution, that already I have told you. Chance for infection, that is already we have seen. There is a chance for preterm rupture of the membrane, and chance for prolonged labor. So these are the factors which are contributing to the chance for getting infection, and chance for lactation failure is there. And if you are coming to the fetal complications, there is a chance for abortion, prematurity, growth problem, chance for intrauterine death is there, chance for asphyxia, stillbirth, and there is a chance for getting fetal anomalies also. And you can see the birth weight of the baby. If it is a single term pregnancy, or if it is a single baby, up by around 38 weeks, the weight of the baby will be approximately 3.3 grams. And if it is a twin pregnancy, around 35 weeks, the weight of the baby will be 2300 grams maximum weight. And if it is a triplet pregnancy, by 32 weeks, the weight of the baby will be 1660 grams. And if it is a quadruplet, that is if 4 babies are there, by 30th week, the babies will be maximum, the babies will be having 1300 grams. And next, complications of monochorionic twins. Already we have seen two types of twin pregnancies are there: monochorionic and monozygotic and dizygotic, or monochorionic and dichorionic. And now we can see the complications of monochorionic or monozygotic twins. First one is twin to twin transfusion syndrome. That is, one twin appears to bleed into the other through the placental vascular connections. So the receiving twin will be looking large with polyhydramnios or polycythemic, hypertensive and hypovolemic. So the baby who is receiving blood will be oxygen and other things will be having will get hypertension, they'll be having hypovolemia, and polycythemia also will develop. And donor twin, or the baby from where the blood is growing, that area, the amniotic fluid also will be less. So that baby may get the oligohydramnia, and the baby will be anemic, hypotensive and hypovolemic. And the donor may appear stuck due to the oligohydramnias. And difference of hemoglobin concentration between the twin exceeds 5 gram percentage, and the estimated fetal weight discrepancy will be 25% or more. And the management, antenatal period itself, you have to diagnose it by doing an ultrasonography or by performing a Doppler flow study of the placental vascular bed. And if polyhydramnias are there, means you can perform repeated amniocentesis in order to control the polyhydramnia of the recipient twin, and this will help for preventing the preterm labor, and it will help for preventing the placental abruption also. And selective reduction of one twin is done when survival of both fetuses are risk. If you are suspecting the death of both baby, you can go for the selective reduction of one baby. So that may help you to save the life of other baby. Usually the small twin will be having better outcome when compared to the large twin, or the baby who is receiving the blood, because the baby who is receiving the blood will be having hypertension, polycythemia and other features, and these baby may get the congestive cardiac failure, and they may get the hydrops fetalis also. So these babies are known as, the baby who is receiving blood is known as plethoric twin. And the perinatal mortality rate is 70% in the case of baby who is receiving the blood, or in the case of plethoric twin. Here you can see the baby who is training. And next complication is dead fetus syndrome. Death of one twin is associated with the poor outcome to the quad twin, especially in the case of monochorionic placenta. The surviving twin runs up the risk of disseminated intravascular coagulation, because the coagulating factors from the body of the dead baby will start to get released, and that may produce coagulation or disseminated intravascular coagulation for the surviving baby. And this is due to the release of thromboplastin from the dead twin, and that may cross the placenta and that may come to the living twin, and this baby may get the disseminated intravascular coagulation due to the presence of thromboplastin from the dead baby. And another complication is TRAP, or twin reversed arterial perfusion, that is characterized by a cardiac perfused twin having blood supply from the normal cord twin through large and arterioarterial anastomosis. That is, you can see in the case of a cardiac twins, one baby won't be having heart and the heart baby will be living as a parasite by taking blood and other things from the normal baby, and there will be a connection, arterial connection between the two babies. And another complication is conjoined twin or Siamese twin. This is also rare, but perinatal survival, that is delivery of the conjoined twin or survival of the conjoined twin or Siamese twin is difficult after the delivery, because there is a chance for anastomosis of the major blood vessels. So in case if you are trying to separate them also, chance for getting mortality or chance for survival is less. Here you can see the babies with fetus ecardias. Now we can see the management of twin pregnancy. During the antenatal period or during the pregnancy, you should take measures for preterm delivery, because if preterm delivery is occurring, the weight of the baby will be less and the chance for survival also will be less. And during the antenatal period or during the pregnancy, you should see the growth and development of the baby, and you should identify the features of fetal growth restriction, and fetal trauma during labor also should be avoided, and you should give expert neonatal or medical care for the baby. And diet during pregnancy, we know that the mother is supposed to meet the needs of two babies, so she should be given more calories, proteins, minerals and vitamins and essential fatty acids, and calories should be increased by 300 kilocalories per day, and supplementation of 60 to 100 milligram per day of iron also should be given, and 1 milligram of folic acid also should be given to the mother daily. And you should give bed rest to the one if you are suspecting the preterm labor. And antenatal period itself, you should perform the ultrasonographic examination, and you should identify the placental anomalies. You should see the twin to twin transfusion syndrome and other complications for the baby, whether it is there or not, that you should confirm. And you should perform all the tests for assessing the fetal well-being, and you should take measures for preventing the preterm delivery. And in case if you are suspecting the preterm delivery, you should hospitalize the lady earlier, and in that case you should give corticosteroids to accelerate or stimulate the fetal in order to ensure the fetal lung maturity if you are suspecting the preterm labor. Next is the management of labor. During the first stage of labor, you need to have a skilled obstetrician, and it is better to have an ultrasonography over there, ultrasound machine over there, and you can perform the ultrasonography in order to assess the condition of the baby if it is needed. And of course, you need to have an anesthetist also, because in case if the normal labor is getting failed, you need to perform the cesarean. In that case, you need to have an anesthetist. And you should give bed rest in the first stage of labor in order to prevent the preterm earlier rupture of the membrane, and you should limit the use of analgesics. In the first stage of labor, you should do the careful monitoring of the progress of the labor and for the condition of the fetus. And if the membranes are getting ruptured, immediately you should do the internal examination in order to exclude the possibility of getting in order to identify whether cord prolapse is there or not. And you should start an IV line with Ringer lactate solution, and you should arrange 1 unit of cross-matched blood also, and a neonatologist also should be present at the time of delivery. And delivery of the first baby, that is management during the labor process, you should see the guidelines as a normal labor and you should put a liberal episiotomy, because sometimes you may need to put the forceps for the delivery of the baby, and you should make arrangements for the pudendal nerve block also in case if anesthesia or analgesia is needed. And do not give intravenous ergometrin with the delivery of the anterior shoulder of the first baby, because if you are giving ergometrin, it will produce a spastic contraction of the uterus, and it may stop or it may prevent the delivery of, or it may reduce the or stop the descent of the second baby, and it may produce undue delay in the delivery of the second baby. And clamp the cord at 2 places and cut the cord immediately after the delivery of the first baby. and at least 8 to 10 centimeter of the cord should be left over there, because in case if you want to give any form of drug or if you want to give the blood transfusion to the baby, you can do this transfusion through this umbilical cord, and the baby should be labeled as 1. And after that, you should conduct the labor of the next baby. That is, first you should, that is even before the delivery of the first baby itself, you should see the live presentation size of the baby, and you should see the fetal FHS of the second baby also. And you should perform the vaginal examination to confirm the abdominal findings and to exclude the prolapse of the cord. And if anything is there, you know, just you have to note the status of the membranes also. And you should make sure that the lie is longitudinal, and you should, in case if the lie is longitudinal, you can perform the rupture of the membrane. You can give syntocinon after rupture of the membrane, and you can, after the rupture of the membrane, you have to perform the internal examination in order to exclude the cord prolapse. And in the step 2, if the uterine contractions are poor, you can give 5 units of oxytocin. And in the step 3, if there is a delay, you should go for the operative delivery. And if the vertex position is there and if it is low, you can go for the forceps delivery. And if it is high, you should exclude the possibility of cephalopelvic disproportion. And in the case of hydrocephalic head, it should be kept in mind that you should identify it by the ultrasonography in the antenatal period itself. And if these are excluded, internal examination followed by breech extraction is performed under general anesthesia. And if it fails, you can go for the ventos, or otherwise as an alternative, instead of the fetal forceps delivery, you can try for the ventos also. Next is breech extraction. If the second baby is in a buttocks presentation, you can go for the breech extraction. And if the lie of the baby is transverse, you should correct the lie of the baby by external version or by internal version, and you should bring the baby to the normal position, and after that you can go for the further delivery of the baby. Next, management during the labor. The indications for the urgent delivery of the second baby include if the mother is getting vaginal bleeding, if cord prolapse is there, and if you have given IV ergometrin after the delivery of the first baby, or if the first baby delivered under the general anesthesia, or if signs of fetal distress are there. In that cases, immediately you should go for the delivery of the second baby. Next, delay in the birth of the second twin. Birth of the second twin should get completed within 45 minutes of the delivery, after the delivery of the first baby. And you should monitor the process of labor closely. And if the time is getting delayed or if fetal distress is occurring, you should cut short the duration of the labor either by using forceps or by using the vacuum or by using the other measures. The risk for delayed labor include, there is a chance for intrauterine hypoxia, there is a chance for birth asphyxia, and there is a chance for sepsis also. Next is the management of third stage. As routine as like other normal delivery, you should give 0.2 milligram of Bethergine IM after the delivery of the shoulder of the second baby. Then you should go for the delivery of the placenta by controlled contraction, and you should continue the oxytocin drip for at least 1 hour following the delivery of the second baby. And the patient should be watched carefully for the next 2 hours after the delivery, especially for the signs of postpartum hemorrhage. And the indications for the cesarean section in the case of multiple pregnancy include if the mother is having placenta previa, that is if the placenta is located in the lower segment of the uterus, if the mother is having preeclampsia, that is hypertension associated with proteinuria and edema is there, and if the mother is having a previous history of cesarean section, and if cord prolapse is there for the first baby, and if abnormal uterine contractions are there, or if contracted pelvis is there, in that cases you can go for the cesarean section. And the indications on the side of the twin include if both fetus or even one fetus with non-cephalic presentation, and the twins with complication, that is if the babies are having intrauterine growth retardation, or if conjoined twins are there, or if monoamniotic twins are there, or if monochorionic twins with complications are there. In that case, you can go for the cesarean section. Next, we can see the management of difficult cases of twins. First one is interlocking twins. It's a common condition that you can see in the case of twin pregnancy. That is, after coming head of first baby will get locked with the forecoming head of the second baby. vaginal manipulation to separate the chins of the fetus. That is, per vaginally, you can try to manipulate this locks, or you can try to manipulate the position of the baby. And if it fails, you can go for the decapitation of the first baby if the baby is not alive. Otherwise, you should go for the cesarean. Otherwise, if the baby is not alive, you can separate the head of one baby and you can push the head of the dead decapitated head. You can push upward, and delivery of the second baby you can do firstly, and delivery of the followed by delivery of the second baby, and finally the delivery of the decapitated head. And occasionally two head of both vertex get locked at the pelvic rim, preventing the engagement of both head. So in this case, disengagement of the higher head you can do. That is, under the general anesthesia you can push one head upward, and if it fails you can go for the cesarean delivery. Next is conjoined twins. This is also rare, and sometimes actually conjoined twins are there means we used to diagnose it during the pregnancy itself, and if it is getting, unfortunately if it is getting diagnosed during the time of delivery, the presence of rich tissue between the two fetuses on the vaginal examination will help you to confirm the diagnosis. And actually the antenatal diagnosis is important, already I have told you that. And if you're diagnosing it in the antenatal period, you can reduce the maternal trauma and morbidity. You can improve the chance for fetal survival, and you can plan for the method of delivery, and you will get time for organizing the surgical team for the pediatric surgery for separating the baby. And in the postnatal period, you have to take care of the baby. Immediate care of the baby should be done, same as like the care of the normal babies. In case if the baby is having complications, you should give separate care. You should maintain the body temperature. You can keep the baby in the overhead heaters. The parents can give an opportunity to check the tag, and they should identify which baby has come first. And always you have to give opportunity for them to cuddle the baby. And you should provide breastfeeding for the baby, regardless of the regarding, you should give education for the mother regarding the position, regarding the breastfeeding, its advantages, how to attach the baby, how to position the baby. All those health educations you have to give for the mother in the postnatal period. And nutrition, if the baby is not able to suck, you can give the expressed breast milk for the baby. And the expressed breast milk you can give either by nasogastric tube or by using the cup feeding. Depending on the size of the baby and general condition of the baby, you can decide the mode of feed. And carefully you have to monitor the weight gain of the baby, and you should check the capillary blood glucose level also. And always you should encourage the baby to suck the breast, and once if the baby is able to suck the breast sufficiently, you can replace it with you can go for the regular feeding. And at feeding times, mother should be provided support, and she should be advised about the positioning and fixing of the babies. Next, we can see the care of the mother. Already I have told you that there is a chance for subinvolution of the uterus due to the overstretching of the uterus during the pregnancy, and she will be having more pain also. So it is better to give analgesics for the woman, and you are supposed to give more calories for the woman because she is supposed to give breast milk for two babies, and you should give extra support and care for the mother in order to handle two babies. And the nursing interventions, you can give nutritional counseling, you can go for the fetal evaluation. You have to evaluate the woman for the signs and symptoms of obstetrical complications, that is mainly for the postpartum hemorrhage. And during the pregnancy, in the nursing care, you should give precautions in order to prevent the preterm labor. So in case if you are suspecting the preterm labor, you can advise the woman take the hospitalization. You can encourage the bed rest and hydration. And in case if she is getting premature contractions, you can give tocolytics, and explain to the woman that the mode of delivery, so explain to her that there is a chance for malpresentations, and sometimes the mode of delivery may get changed. You have to explain the maternal status and fetal status and gestational age. All those things should be explained to the mother during the pregnancy. And management during the intrapartum period, you should establish an IV line. You should monitor the fetal uh, fetal status, fetal condition. You should double setup is recommended. That is, a double setup is recommended for the delivery. That is, you need to have arrangements for the emergency situations. In case if you are going for an emergency condition, you need to have the facility to meet the emergency, and at the same time you need to have the facility to receive two babies. You should arrange 2 units of cross-matched blood, and you should start an IV line, and you can put a large bore catheter for that, and you should prepare the surgical site. In case if you are suspecting a cesarean section, you should prepare the abdomen, and an obstetrician should be available. Even if it is a normal delivery also, it is better to have an obstetrician and an anesthetist. And you should discuss about the choice of anesthesia. Even if it is needed or not needed also, you should discuss in advance. And an anesthesia provider capable of administering general anesthesia should be there, and a neonatal team also should be available in case if neonatal resuscitation is needed, that also should be there. And after that, you can go for the pitocin injection, and you can go for the augmentation of the labor if hypotony is there. And after the delivery, otherwise, if you are not giving oxytocin drugs, there is a chance for postpartum hemorrhage. There is a chance for uterine atony, and you have to give emotional support for the woman throughout the process of the labor. Next is the nursing diagnosis. In order to formulate the nursing diagnosis, you have to identify the problems of the lady. So the problems include anxiety, deficient knowledge, risk for imbalanced nutrition, risk for fetal injury, risk for maternal injury, risk for deficient fluid volume, risk for impaired gas exchange, risk for activity intolerance, risk for ineffective or compromised family coping, risk for interrupted family process. And the nursing diagnosis for the cesarean delivery include deficient knowledge, anxiety, powerlessness, risk for acute pain, risk for infection, risk for impaired fetal gas exchange, risk for maternal injury, and risk for decreased cardiac output. So thank you for watching this video. See you soon with a new video.